Hey Pisces, so I'm having a look at the forecast for the next week, from the full moon in Aries right the way through to the third quarter moon phase, when the moon's in Cancer. So that's from the 7th of October to the 13th of October. It's a lunar week. And one of the key words or phrases that's coming up for me, I guess, is permission granted. Who is granting you permission in this week ahead? And what are you doing about your feelings of self-respect and self-agency? These to me feel like really strong themes, especially seeing as one of your main ruling planet. I mean, Jupiter and Neptune are the two rulers of Pisces, but I really get that Jupiter's in a very, very strong bind at the moment. And sorry, I've got an itchy nose. He's in this great big grand square. And, Jupiter's got this really strong need for advocacy and sovereignty. And he's in opposition to Pluto, in a square to Chiron, and also in a square to Mercury as well. I mean, Jupiter's really in a bind. And so what I want to do is sort of explore what's going on over this week ahead. But how can you get back into that feeling of sovereignty? How can you feel like you're in charge of your life and nobody else is like sticking their beak in and telling you how you need to do it? If you're new to this channel, by the way, my name's Louisa. Welcome to Feel Good Astrology. I mean, this is your ascendant forecast where I look at your whole sign, tropical, Western style chart. Obviously, it's not yours because I don't know you personally, unless I actually do. But I've built a model to sort of describe what's going on from your Pisces perspective. And, think of this as a regular check-in with the planetary movements, planetary patterns, and what might be coming about. This is really permission for you to align with what's unfolding for the Pisces ascendant message. So themes of permission, themes of self-regulation, self-agency, also no to feeling overpowered. Like, how can we not allow you to feel overpowered? Like, how can the planets right now boost you up so that you just feel enlivened by what is, rather than overwhelmed by how things appear to be? Because I really do get that at the moment it feels like a lot of what we're seeing around us just doesn't feel quite real. And now that you've got Saturn going back into your sign, he's been there a little while now, I think from the 1st of September, if I'm not mistaken. Now that Saturn's back in the sign of Pisces, it's like, what is real? What do I need to discern? There's just so much going on. So anyway, Pisces, let's dive in. Before I dive into any charts, I just want to say thank you to everyone that has historically supported this channel. Anybody who sends me lovely messages, and people in membership as well. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you all. You're the ones that have helped me to construct this. So I really appreciate you. Anyway, this is my big question for this week ahead. Where in my life do I need to stop waiting for permission and start acting from self-trust? And that's a whopper of a question, isn't it? Because, if we can solve that and come back into self-trust, we're not going to have to ask permission from anyone. We'll be the ones in charge of our life. We'll be really feeling into our own patterns. And that's what I'm really seeing coming out from this forecast. So as we're starting this, the full moon in Aries is occurring. And, I think of a full moon as being a 3-day affair. You're coming into it the day before, then there's the full moon, and then you're kind of coming out of it. And so the night of the full moon is on the 7th. And again, this is going to vary according to where you are in the world. And on that day, Mercury is exactly in a square to Pluto. Wow, that's interesting, because Mercury in a square to Pluto, whilst he's also in a square to Jupiter, whilst he's also in an opposition to Chiron, I think is giving us a very, Mercury rules communications, sort of emails and messages and things like that, but also the thoughts, our behaviors that are coming from our thoughts, that are animated by our thoughts, the messages from the spirit world into the real world. Like, you know, Mercury was a messenger between the gods and the humans. So it's like our intuition as well at some level, and his ability to move and transact. So I think, you know, money as well is tied into this. And so Mercury in a square to Jupiter, like communications are exaggerated, much like I'm doing right now with my voice. And in a square to Pluto, you know, Mercury is sort of exaggerated with his cruelty or his sarcasm or his biting, incisive observations. And so, yeah, things could get, you know, given the fact that there's also a bitchy old full moon. Sorry to call it bitchy, but I mean, a full moon in Pisces is absolute high intensity anyway. You know, it has a tendency to explode. And so, you know, these are times are very, very choppy. At the same time that this is happening, we've also got Venus coming into an opposition to Saturn and Neptune. She makes that opposition to Saturn exactly on the 11th. And so, yeah, we might be feeling a little bit disconnected, a little bit undervalued. We might be doubting ourselves quite a bit and wondering if we've been deluding ourselves. We might be feeling a bit confused about what it is we're here to do, and how that relates to other people in our life, you know, with Saturn in the first and Neptune heading back into the first. This is a time when it's hard to get really clear about what your purpose is and what you're here to do, especially in relationship to other people. And so, yeah, at the time of the full moon and this biting wit and biting insights that are exaggerated and possibly coming out of a place of hurt, you know, this opposition to Chiron. To me, this full moon is rife with potential to, you know, have some misdirection. And so, if it's not happening to you in your private life, that's amazing. But what I imagine we're going to see is what's going on in the world around us, where people are in a proper stressed out position. All the ones that are reported in the news are. I mean, I do think the news doesn't help us. Neither does social media necessarily. You know, it's emphasizing, exaggerating, like really bringing stuff to the fore. And of course, the astrology right now is super choppy, choppier than it's been in years and years and years. And so to me, this just looks like a time when if you're short on time, short on patience, short on kind of spirit in yourself, this is a time when it could really bring the worst out in us. Now, you know, Pluto currently is in your, I say currently like he's going anywhere else, but he is in your 12th house now for another 18 and a half years. And so he's really transforming your unconscious mind at a slow, deep, permanent level. And the way he's doing it is by kind of digging in and bringing up your insecurities and fears. You know, by doing that, what he's really doing is showing you where you're vulnerable. And there are probably better ways of doing it, but the way Pluto does it is to bring it up, and it comes up as a fear. You know, anywhere where you don't feel like anywhere where you feel like your safety is a little bit in question, you know, a fear comes up, and it's showing you where you're exposed. And of course, Jupiter right now in the 5th, in the sign of Cancer, is just showing where you're loving life and where you're wanting to dive into things and where you're wanting to experience passion and intimacy and really expose yourself to matters of the heart. And of course, in opposition to Pluto, it's like, oh, don't want to do that. You might get hurt. Why would you want to expose yourself and enjoy life and feel passionate when you could lose it all? You know, so it's that undermining pattern going on beneath the scenes. And then Mercury in the 9th, I think, is really trying to take a spiritual view. In fact, Mercury here could actually be quite helpful. You know, Mercury, you know, can be giving you quite an adventurous way of seeing life, which actually is helpful for Jupiter. You know, wanting to express himself in a sort of passionate and exciting way, that can actually be quite helpful. But then, you know, Pluto in a square to Chiron and Mercury in opposition to Chiron, to me, that's potentially bringing up the self-worth, which is tying back into Pluto. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Anywhere where you don't feel good enough, Pluto's backing up that Chiron message, saying, well, do you really want to open yourself up to getting hurt again? So it's like this, this kind of negative self-talk. Now, the great news is this isn't permanent. None of this is permanent, but this is the kind of little monkey mind thing that's going on right now. And Mercury in this position is kind of setting it off. And this particular full moon as well is emphasizing it, because straight after the full moon and, into the 8th, you've got Mercury coming into a conjunction with Chiron, and then still is in a conjunction with Chiron even when the moon moves into the sign of Taurus and so this is really emphasized. Now, as the week goes on, the fear of opening up and being intimate again, that's disappearing. It's just it's like it's almost like the volume's turned up at the beginning of the week, and then after the 8th coming into the 9th, the volume is turned back down where it should be. The ideal thing would be over the next few days, weeks, months, years, whatever, you start to recognize when that sound comes up, when that volume comes up, and you start to say, oh, it's that pattern again. Okay, yeah, I remember what I did last time and what helped, so that you can start to help and heal it. But this week is going to get much better after the 8th. Now, Venus in a sextile to Jupiter is really great. So again, there's more opportunities to be dating. There's more opportunities to be having a great time in your relationship. If you can only ignore that side of you that is second guessing the situation and trying to keep you safe by encouraging you not to get involved. Now, Venus in a conjunction with the South Node may well remind you of previous times when you've tried and maybe it didn't work, but it's not to say it's not going to work again. And, Venus is also reminding you of the times when things have been really fun, like when you've enjoyed being in love and you've enjoyed being intimate. And so Venus and Jupiter working together, to me, I think is an indication if you're not in a relationship and not dating, or if you're not trying to meet somebody, this is a time when you can have loads of fun with amazing friends that share similar passions to you. So this is a time, for you to be fully into your self-expression. I love it. I think this is great. Now, Mercury is where this yod is pointing at the beginning of the week, really showing that for you to move beyond the pattern of insecurity that may well reassert itself during this week. Mercury is where you can talk yourself out of it. Mercury in the 9th house to do with spirituality, to do with religion, faith, a broader context, a bigger set of scenarios, more of an adventure. To me, as you're enjoying your life and learning about life and experiencing things at a higher level of expression, that is what's helping you to turn down the volume on the fear. So I think it's good. And Mercury's fast moving, the moon's fast moving. So like I said, as you're getting into the midweek, it's starting to sort itself out, which is beautiful. It's really helpful. Now, Venus is going into an opposition to Saturn all this week, which is a bit of a fly in the ointment, because it's a time when we often feel disconnected. But this isn't just about you. This is about everyone. Venus is in opposition to Saturn in everybody's chart. And so it brings up a feeling of, where we consider our self-worth and our sense of, do I belong here? Now, Saturn back in your first house from the 1st of September is reminding you of the journey you've been on since March 2023. Because Saturn came in here and it was a story of getting quite serious, making hard decisions about what levels of responsibility you want in your life. It's possibly a time when you've had to work harder at your health. And again, you've taken everything quite seriously. Saturn coming here is really you adulting yourself and deciding, who am I going to be right now? How am I going to stand in the world? How am I going to bring myself forwards? And so, yeah, there's a bit of a seriousness about you that is probably not very lighthearted. And that seriousness in itself is slightly disconnecting from people. And Venus here is really showing that people are actually wanting you to connect. They're really wanting you to connect. People are trying to encourage you and bring you out, so like sort of bring you forwards. So any opportunity where you feel safe enough to explore passion and life with other people, take it. Take this opportunity. Now, as we're coming into this period, so the full moon is going from Aries, it's coming into the sign of Cancer. So as we're coming into this Cancer time from the 12th of October, I would say things are really looking up. Things are starting to get into their flow. The energy of the sweet energy of creation with another person, whether it's sexual, whether you're creating something in terms of a project, something you're passionate about, whether it's something that you both love together. To me, that sense of communion is getting stronger. And then really, as we're going into next week, and by that time, hopefully I'll have recorded another one, we're the moon is then sort of heading up towards the 7th house, the 8th house, the 9th house. So you're on a really nice run where things are going to get much easier, and there'll be a lot more fun. And a lot of this energy is just going to dissipate. So back to the original question, that's the thing I want to really talk about. Where in my life do I need to stop waiting for permission and start acting from self-trust? So let's just back step a little bit. Stop asking for permission. To me, like Saturn in your first house is asking you to have fun. It's almost like there's a part of you that, and it's funny because I had a similar message for Aquarius, because they've got Pluto in their first house. But you got Saturn in your first house, and Saturn is also very serious, just like Pluto. But Saturn isn't necessarily doing it to transform. Saturn's doing it to keep everything together. And so there's almost like a safety perspective that's going on. Something has triggered your need to stay safe and resourced and in control. And so that part of you is almost like the gatekeeper to your experience currently. There's a part of you that is like the prefect at school, the head girl that's going to spy on you. No disrespect to a head girl if you're not a spy or anything. But that idea that there's somebody in charge, and there's a part of you that's in charge, trying to make things fit, trying to make things regular, trying to make things not stand out too much, but be really watertight and squeaky clean. And you may find that some of the aims that you've got for yourself in particular to do with keeping healthy and staying attractive and staying in alignment, the bones are really emphasized when Saturn's in this part of your chart. You might have had to work really, really hard to get things working as beautifully as they have done. And you might not want to let go of that. And yet Venus and Jupiter are begging you to give them a night off and let you have some fun. Because when your body has fun and when you're lifted up, all of a sudden your body heals at a much more rapid rate. And it's like you become more youthful. Both Jupiter and Venus are so kind of youthful in their joyfulness, and they're really working together, to just listen to Saturn, but not your ruling planet, I think is a bit of a mistake. So in terms of where in my life do I need to stop waiting for permission to have fun and start acting from self-trust? I wonder what it would take right now for you to say, I'm having a day off. I don't care about my standards. I don't care about any of it. Right now, I am in my own flow. I'm in my own pattern. I'm in my own intuition, and I trust myself to keep me safe. So to me, it's like not a change of ownership of who's in charge of you, but this is like an internal conversation where you just say, look, like to the army at the front, like stand down. I need to have some fun. I need to experience life because, protecting me is actually stopping me from enjoying my life. Now, if we take this a little bit more broadly, if I believed I was enough, what new possibility would I allow myself to explore? Well, this is where the beauty of the Pisces energy comes in, because if you felt completely enough, the Saturn energy here just wouldn't be playing up. The Saturn energy wouldn't be holding you back and kind of holding you against a series of structures, judgments, measurements. Saturn would just be there saying, good job, Jupiter, you did it great. Let's see if you can do it a bit more next time. You know, he'd be encouraging you. He'd be like the encouraging parent rather than the judgmental parent sort of archetype. And so that's really where you want your Saturn. And so if you were really in love with yourself, or that's not the word, what was it? If you were really felt enough, the new possibility you'd be exploring, I think, is how you can rewild yourself, how you can be more wildly in love with life, knowing that you have the balance between the Jupiter and the Saturn energy. Now, what I really like about this, Pisces, and I think this is going to serve you beautifully, is right now Jupiter and Saturn are in a trine. And they're going to stay in a trine for quite a while. And Neptune, the other co-ruler of Pisces, is also in a trine with Jupiter. And they're going to be in a trine for quite some time. So I think this is actually going to help you. I think for the first time in a really long time, you're going to get the balance of being stern with yourself, which you're not very good at. And that's probably why you might be overemphasizing it at the moment, versus being easy with yourself and being gentle and graceful with yourself. And so my advice is to be more Jupiter. Allow your Jupiterian energy to come in. So anytime you're wanting to connect, anytime you're wanting to feel passionate, anytime you're wanting to just feel the joy of life and feel alive in a very spontaneous, organic, and soulful way, allow it to blossom. Trust that you can do it. You know, over the last couple of years, I think Saturn has probably taken you out of your normal sense of self-esteem and your normal sense of confidence. Because when Saturn comes into the first house, I mean, I remember the last time he was in my first house, I felt like I aged overnight. And, you know, I was so serious about things that I just didn't want to let go of anything in case I did it wrong. And my way of being in myself, I was so judgmental. And so you don't need to do that anymore. You've done it more than enough. You've done it, you know, and Saturn's not going to be back here for another 29 years. So you've done it enough for it to last a lifetime almost. So, you know, this is time to come out of judgment and come into self-love. So that's where I feel like I want to leave this today, Pisces. So I really hope this is useful. And if it's spoken to you at a much deeper level, and, you know, this has left you wanting more, then just check out my membership. You know, I do forecasts Monday to Friday. There's a relationships and connections forecast every week for all signs of the zodiac, and also a career, money and ambition forecast as well. So if that sounds like something that would help you, well, give you some more support, then just check it out. Or if you want me to deep dive with you into your own chart, your own potential, then just get in touch. All of my details are below, and I keep my diary online so you can just book straight in and invite me to work with you. So there you go. Thanks for joining me today. Have a fabulous week ahead from the 7th to the 13th, and catch you next week when, you know, we'll explore this a little bit further, a little bit deeper, and see what happens. Lots of love.